Man, I can't believe I'm late to the shoot. I'm usually the first person to arrive, you know? I can't believe I'm letting these guys wait for me. Let's see what they're up to. Hey, guys. Huh? Guys, I'm late. I figured you guys would be all set up for the shoot. What are you doing?
We're researching.
Researching what?
Jessica Jones.
Jessica Jones. We're not going to talk about that till next month.
Ah!
All right, turn this off, guys. We got a video to shoot. Let's go. Welcome to Pop Culture Talk. Great stories. Here we are with the team. We got Rob Goyer, Tyler Hamill, Chris Mills, Wayne Demers, and Ken Lee at the end. He's going to talk so much in this video. Just get ready. Just get ready for it. All right. Anyway, we've if you didn't watch the comic talk video yet, it's been a while since we've been on film. And we're in new surroundings. You probably notice it's a different setup here. We're in you're very uncomfortable. We're in a new shop, and with new shops bring new things, and so we're new opportunity, new production value in the future. So
not this one. This one's still going to be bad.
This one is still going to be single camera, looking at you, looking at us. So that's it.
Feel free to pause and get up and move around for a bit before continuing the video.
But enough of that. We'll we're going to get right into the meat of what we want to talk about. I think we want to talk about the biggest movie in February history.
Annihilation. Oh right,
that's March.
No, Black Panther.
No, Black Panther. Yes, we're going to talk about Black Panther tonight because that's what everybody has. I don't think there's anyone out there who hasn't seen it yet. If you haven't seen it yet, then I guess you're kind of living under a rock. I don't know.
They're missing out.
They're missing out. That's probably a better way of saying it. I kind of insulted you there. I apologize. I didn't mean to.
Well, here's the thing. You know what? We can't be insulting. There are people that work hard late nights, or maybe don't have money, or don't have a car, and is stuck at the comic book store all day.
They could have stolen it.
So.
All right. Anyway.
Saying some of us haven't had an opportunity yet.
Yes.
Yes.
And so.
See, we're sympathizers with all of you. Not for any specific reason. Do we just take your time going to see it?
Take your time. No, but you're going to get spoilers here. So that's the future of this video, by the way.
So
we are no longer spoiler free because we want to make it interesting for you. So that going forward.
Should I just leave?
You just, maybe Ken should be excused from this conversation right now. Anyway, let's talk Black Panther.
Excellent movie.
It's got a Black Panther in it.
Love the trailer.
Yeah. Yep. Oh, the trailer was awesome.
The trailer was really good, and the movie lived up to the trailer hype.
Yeah, it made $1 billion.
$1 billion
with a B.
Yes,
B. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. Even for like a
one
movie
character, unlike Justice League that had many.
How long has it been? It's been like 3 weeks.
It's been out for
3 weeks.
Is it 3 weeks?
3 weeks.
That's crazy. That's
Can
absolutely
we go watch
crazy.
it?
The global market.
What are you guys doing tonight? Because I would love to go see that.
You want to go back to Wakanda?
I almost hit up our temporary cameraman Tyler over there. I almost hit him up a few weeks ago to go see it, but he was busy.
You can't see Tyler right now. He's behind the camera, but yeah.
I almost
That's sad face. Anyway, Wakanda. So one thing that immediately struck me, by the way, was the first time we approach Wakanda in the movie. Didn't it have that Lion King feel?
Do they actually play
Maybe.
the Circle of Life?
They should have, actually. I mean, that is another Disney property after all. So, but yeah, I mean, it was beautifully shot. I mean, so much good about this movie. Also, a distinct lack of comedy, which is kind of like, we're used to so much comedy in some of our Marvel films.
It was a different
you-
Marvel film.
Yeah.
I
Definitely a
wouldn't-
darker, blacker movie.
I'd say the most I'd say
I see what you did there, Ken.
Yeah, I mean, don't mind me. I have nothing to add to this.
I'd say the comedy movies are more of that we've seen as Guardians of the Galaxy and anything
I feel like
has
it
to do
gets
with Thor.
I feel like it gets funnier the further we go out into space with Marvel, and I think that I don't know if this was their plan, but I feel like it does keep us grounded on Earth to have that kind of like Earth comedy out there in space.
Yeah.
It was
But when you get to the ground level stuff, like Civil War, there wasn't a whole lot of comedy in that either. It was
Civil
very
War,
grounded.
yeah, Civil War is definitely a dark film. But I mean, most of the films that have contained the Tony Stark storylines, he's got a bit of a comic delivery
Yeah.
to him. Like there are elements there of humor that are just absent in this Black Panther film. I think there's maybe like one little like chuckle moment in this movie, and it's right near the beginning.
There's a few.
But
But it's more of this was an origin story, but it didn't have the feel of an origin story.
Yeah.
Because you already knew who he was. He was already introduced in another movie.
Yep.
And
At this point, the
Actually, we
Black
saw
Panther
his
mantle
origin
is-
in Civil War.
It has
Yeah.
been
But now
passed
we're
on
getting
for
what
quite
happens
a long
after
time,
that.
right?
exactly.
So now, he's starting to fall into his role.
yeah,
So a little different because Origin was a small, probably 3 sentence to a paragraph
Yeah.
in Civil War,
With his,
but now
with his father dying
Yeah.
in his arms, and it's like,
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
a Black Panther now.
yeah.
But he didn't
so-
actually become Black
So
Panther.
why don't we explain the Black Panther,
Yeah.
maybe for the people that aren't familiar
So
with
the Black
with
Panther
it.
is the king of Wakanda. Whoever becomes king of Wakanda gets the Black Panther powers. So there's only one person with that power.
And it's passed on to this individual through what method?
via a serum-like substance that comes from the vegetation within
Yeah.
a special mountainside, I would guess you would say,
Flower.
that it's been cultivated, and
Okay.
they use it. Yeah, and they use
Yeah.
this serum from this plant. Then that person would consume the serum, and then their body.
They almost
gets
like
these
die
powers.
and they're reborn almost in a way. They kind
Yeah.
of pass to the almost like this
That's
other
true.
side type of thing and then come
Yeah.
back.
Right.
Yeah.
And when they're reborn, so
Yep.
to speak, with these powers, they take on the mantle as Black Panther.
Yep.
But once you're given those powers, it doesn't mean that you're with those powers indefinitely, because they kind of have a anti-serum to remove those powers from you, so that way when it's time to choose a new king, that they can remove those powers from you, and then you battle. If you are challenged for the throne, then they remove the powers from you, and then you battle. And the winner
Just as
of
a
the battle,
regular human.
yeah, as a regular human, and
Yep.
then if you win, then those powers are restored, and if you lose, the powers go on to the next person through their ceremony.
I found that to be a very compelling part of the movie, where you had that confederation of tribes, basically, who are all linked together under the one king, and how there were representatives basically from each one of these tribes, and some of them would defer to the rightful heir, if you viewed it that way, and others would, like you said, come up and issue a challenge, to earn that right to be the leader of the kingdom. There were some pretty cool dynamics in there. I love the Ken's kind of upset. I think. Am I blowing it for you, Ken?
I was just gonna make a crack about
Okay.
fights to the death not being a very effective way of electing a leader.
This is all
Nah, that's a good
information
point. Yeah.
within the comics from years ago.
Yeah,
so-
I'm just saying that,
It
like,
is,
in this
yeah,
day and
that's
age
true.
of, like, people,
Yeah.
like, Wakanda's supposed to be this super,
Highly advanced.
advanced
But they
civilization, but they're
yeah.
still fighting over
But
the
they
king.
still have tradition.
That's
That's what
Yeah,
they're
right,
trying
yeah,
to go
exactly.
for.
Exactly it.
That shit,
Yeah,
tradition
they have
aside,
traditions.
that's a terrible way to pick
It was
king.
a very, very political storyline, because it was all about tradition. That's not what we do. That is not the Wakandan way.
Oh, so this was actually referenced in the movie.
Yes,
Yeah,
there was a
yeah.
lot of reference in the movie how
I shouldn't even be here.
Yeah, there's a lot of reference in the
That's the
movie
correct
about
seat to be in
if you
for that
have
position.
the technology and resources to help other people, you should help them.
Right.
So
Yes.
that was the biggest point to get across out of the movie that I
Right.
saw.
Right.
But
Yeah, I mean, the movie was fantastic. The villains. What can you talk about? Can you talk a little bit about the villains here?
Killmonger was perfect.
Yep.
Perfectly done.
Yep.
His story,
You can empathize a little bit with him.
you get what he's doing. You agree with what he wants to do, but you don't agree with how he's doing it. So
Yeah.
there is you do get what he wants.
Which
And
was
his
this?
is a
Which
really
character
tragic.
was this?
Killmonger.
This was the main
The
main villain.
the main
okay, so this was
Yes.
not the other villain that we first start off with, the arms dealer.
the white guy,
oh
token white guy.
The only white guy?
Yeah.
That's not true because he didn't stay to the end of the movie.
That's fair.
he did die first.
Yeah. So that
He was very good in
What's
it,
that
too.
Jones? What's that actor's
Really?
name?
You know,
Was
you,
it-
Oh yeah,
you kind of laugh at
Claw.
that.
Was
it
I
Claw?
have a couple of friends from Senegal.
So his name is the Claw?
I've talked to them about how the culture is over
Just
there.
Claw.
It's the exact opposite of the United States as
Yeah.
far as that kind of culture goes. Like, it's
So in
pretty
the-
much
in the
just
film,
like
though,
token
the-
white guy over there.
In the film, there was the villain, the Claw,
Yes.
Yeah.
played by
Yeah. Oh,
Can't
who,
think of his
who was
name.
the actor?
The guy who played Smeagol.
yes,
Oh,
and he
Andy
was
Andy
also-
Serkis.
Yeah,
Andy
Andy
Serkis.
Serkis.
Andy Serkis.
He, I thought, was excellent. And I'm
He
glad
was.
he actually gets his own face in front of the
Yep.
camera,
Yep.
and I thought he was great. I was surprised as to the length of time he was on the film in the film,
Mhm.
because I thought he was going to be the main antagonist, right?
It seemed that way. Yeah.
And then, but then I loved who the main antagonist was. And
Yeah.
I loved
Yep.
the battles between
Um,
them.
Yep.
I loved the story. I thought the actors that they chose were excellent cast.
Top notch cast.
Yeah. So, actually, there were 3 white people in that film, right?
Oh well, of course you have
The guy from
Watson. What's his name?
yeah, the other guy that was in Lord of the Rings.
Freeman.
Martin Freeman.
Martin Freeman.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
And he
but
plays a
anyway,
very pivotal role in the movie as well. So.
but excellent.
Plays a
excellent.
huge role in the MCU now.
Oh, yeah, he does
He does.
actually.
Oh,
yeah.
that's right, because this is the second time in
Yeah.
a Marvel
Yep.
film, right?
Yeah, because he was in Civil War.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't want to curb the discussion, but I'll say this to wrap up my part of this discussion was the movie was over 2 hours and 15 minutes long.
Yeah.
It was over that. It felt all of that time. But I don't know what you could possibly cut out of that film, because whatever you would cut out would really take away from the storyline and the character development that was there. So, I mean, unless you want to take away a chase scene that was just screaming, what was it, Lexus, I think? You know, other than that, I mean,
Cha-ching.
I
product
liked,
placement.
yeah, product placement. But I did like the chase scene. I did like the action scenes.
Because it had a point when it
Exactly,
was over.
exactly.
Every scene that you think they could have done without,
Yeah,
you rethink it, and they
Right.
really couldn't have.
Yeah.
I've thought about it. I'm like, there's really nothing I would say, if you'd taken this out of it, it really wouldn't had any impact. I thought the story was really well done.
Yep.
It's just that at the end, I felt like I'd been in there for over 2 hours. So, take that with a grain of salt if you can sit through long movies. That one I was starting to feel, but there is nothing I could have pulled out of that.
I didn't feel it. Those 2 hours,
Yeah.
I
It must have
didn't really
been
feel
the
it
guy
'cause
behind me or something that just kept talking. I don't know.
Sorry about that.
That could
It happens. Yeah, right.
But yeah, I thought that the length, the whole movie brought that character and did that character and storyline justice. There wasn't really anything they could have done better.
Mhm.
Right.
So
Right. Well, I will say this. I mean, it's getting a lot of fanfare. It's getting a lot of, how should I say? I mean, people are
praise.
basically saying that this is, the best Marvel film that's ever been made. that kind of thing. I wouldn't go that overboard with it. I mean, I would say that it's an absolutely solid film. I can't find any faults with it, but I think it's a solid entry into the
It proves that
into the
Marvel is
pantheon.
getting better
It's-
and better with their movies.
They are, and they're so masterful with their, the end scenes, when they do the extra scenes, just allowing you to kind of bridge into the next part of the story. I don't know if Marvel, Disney was the first to use this type of a method,
Definitely capitalized on it.
but they definitely have capitalized on it.
They've come to own it.
they-
Really.
Absolutely. I mean, now it's like
No one else will do it
no. I mean,
except for Deadpool.
well, I mean, they did it with
like
the Justice League
Yeah.
film. They did do a end scene, end credit scene. But yeah, it's just masterful. I love it, and you do get something that's somewhat meaty at the end. It's not like with the Spider-Man movie, you get a little bit of a oh wait until the very end, and you got like a
Yeah.
joke basically, a Captain America joke. But this one actually had a little bit more relevance. But I'll tell you, we don't have to wait long for another Marvel film to come out. We got Infinity War coming up pretty soon, but we'll talk more about that next time. So unless we have some more to say, to really ruin Ken's Ken's experience seeing this film, maybe we should talk about another movie or
Another movie I haven't seen.
yeah, exactly.
Annihilation.
What else have I seen this week?
Well, you know what? If you haven't seen it, then you saved a couple bucks and just wait to watch it on Netflix or your any other streaming service.
Or
you
maybe
may
like
be.
not at all.
Or maybe not at all. Yeah. We're going into Annihilation.
Let's talk about Annihilation. I really don't have anything to say because I haven't seen it. So
So
the floor is yours, my friend.
I like the trailer. I was intrigued with where they were going with it. What is it that's going on? What's behind this wall of
What is
sheen?
Annihilation, though?
What is it? Do you want to define it?
Do you what kind of movie for the
Okay,
those
so
out
it's
there who might
I
not,
would call it a sci-fi drama. I would certainly not call it an action film.
Okay.
And it's not quite a horror film.
Okay.
Although it has elements of action at times, it has jump out of your seat moments, just whatever, this sit on the edge of your seat moments, but it's not a horror film. It's definitely a sci-fi drama, I would call it.
Okay.
If what you see is what you get. So what you see in the trailer is pretty much what you're going to get in the movie. I thought the casting was okay. I thought the acting was okay. I actually had a friend of mine ask me, "Oh, is this one of those films that I can go and see?" See, this is why I take notes because I forget her name.
Natalie Portman.
Thank you, Natalie Portman. Natalie Portman, who I think is one of the best actresses out there. So let's take, if you look at the prequel Star Wars films, I felt like, what you can only do with what you're given.
Yep.
Right? I never faulted her for the acting in there because I thought the script was crappy. So she could only portray what she was directed to do. In this particular film, I thought the writing was better. I feel like she gives a solid performance, but I feel like there's something lacking in the whole story. I feel like, I don't know, I haven't even really pinpointed it yet. Maybe we could say it was the lack of men in the film, male figures in the film. I don't know. There's this big push right now in Hollywood that you have to have strong female characters in every film. I'm all for that. I don't have any issue with that as long as the story is fitting to it. And the way this story was written, you needed the female characters. And so that's why I say I like the casting that they had. But I just felt like the pace of the film was slow, kind of like this review, right? It's kind of slow, because that's how the pace of the movie kind of went.
So what is the?
So the premise is that, spoiler ahead, an asteroid has come through space, hit planet Earth, right through a lighthouse, and all of a sudden there's the sheen, is what we'll call it, and things begin to change. Trees and things begin to grow, and they look different. And every time they send somebody in to take a look at it, they never come back. So they literally walk through this wall of sheen, and they never come back. So this happens over and over and over. The government puts out a story as to it's like a chemical spill or something, so nobody can go near this lighthouse. Don't come within your fishing boat range, I suppose, either. They didn't talk about that, but, you know, nonetheless, they're hiding it from the public. And so the main character, the guy plays Poe Dameron in Star Wars. Everything's a Star Wars reference for me, so it's kind of funny because I'm like, oh, Natalie Portman, and I forget
So
this guy's name.
of Star Wars.
You know, and their husband and wife, and I'm like, oh, that's so not right. But okay, so they're husband and wife, and he disappears. He goes off on a mission to investigate. Mm-hmm. She does not know what the mission is about because it's a top secret classified thing. They never come back. And then all of a sudden, one day, he appears out of nowhere. After like a year of being gone, he just walks into the house. And she's like caught aghast. And it's like as if she's seen a ghost. But he's not acting like himself. The government comes in, swoops him up. She gets pulled out because she's a doctor of some kind. And so the government asks her questions. And then she gets pulled into, you know what, I'm going on this next mission. I want to see what's in there. And so they bring her in because of her expertise in whatever she's a doctorate of.
Okay.
And in goes this group of women, all with their own expertise. And one at a time they get picked off. And I could care, all the men they find all dead. And so in the end, we end up with Natalie Portman looking at the alien as it manifests itself. Finally, at that moment, I'm like, oh, finally we're here, and this pretty colors and neat CGI, and I'm loving the audio tones being thrown in. And then we'll get to the end of the movie, and everything happens exactly how you thought it was going to happen an hour and a half ago. Right? I mean, you could just see every scene. Everything was so...
predictable?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's where I'm at with
that's
Annihilation. So, was it a bad film? No. Was it a good film? It was good.
Okay.
Natalie Portman, I hope you get another film worth your talents.
Wow. Okay. Well, speaking of resurrecting actors from the dead, we've got Bruce Willis. And he has... well, he hasn't died.
His career almost has.
Yeah.
His career's been kind of lagging a little bit, and but here he is in the remake of Death Wish. Now, a movie from, what, 1974 maybe? Is that right?
Charles
If I
Bronson.
remember correctly.
Charles Bronson, yeah.
You seen that one?
Yeah,
Fear
this,
the-
is old. This is a classic.
Fear the Mustache Man.
Yeah, that
You
guy was
know?
I was
intense.
gonna make a Taken
And-
joke, but this was before Taken.
Yeah, that's a little bit.
So every time you hear about a remake of a movie that really is kind of like it's in the I don't know, if you really think about like the quality of the original, like why do we need to have a remake of this? Death Wish is a classic with Charles Bronson. There's probably no real need for the remake, right? But that being said, I went into this thinking, wow, this is Eli Roth, the director, horror film director.
It's the director of such movies as The Hostel and
Oh, yeah.
Cabin Fever.
Cabin Fever, Hostel, the
Excellent films.
the very squeamish Green Inferno movie, which was a wonderful diatribe on social commentary. And here we are, he's taking over, basically a revenge film. And so I was kind of intrigued by that, and I'm intrigued. I do like Bruce Willis. And so I was like, all right, you know what, I'm going to give this a chance. And I'm glad I did, actually, because it was a worthy remake. They, how close to the original is it? Well, they do change some things. Charles Bronson was an architect. And so Bruce Willis in this movie is a surgeon. And that plays very heavily into how the story progresses, actually. But, so there are some differences there. Also, the nature of the crime that occurs that sets off the chain of events later for Bruce Willis is a little bit different. And it's actually shockingly less, how should I say, less offensive, I think, to the average moviegoer. In the original, his wife and daughter, Charles Bronson's wife and daughter, are killed. But there's also a rape involved. in this, which makes it especially gruesome and terrible. I figure with Eli Roth, who is not one to shy away from shock, that probably would have been included. They actually took out the rape part, which was actually probably a good thing. That kind of stuff is a little bit sensitive for a lot of moviegoers. So that being said, you had a situation where you have a burglary gone awry, wife is killed, daughter is in a coma, and Bruce Willis's character is this really nice guy, not really the vengeful type, but eventually comes around to this as he's dealing with his the loss, they play it very well. Bruce Willis is usually like this action star in most movies where, Die Hard, he's like,
Yep.
basically a superhero, right, on screen. And in this, it's refreshing because he's playing a guy who really is going out there to do a lot of the same things that other characters of his would do in other movies, but he does it a lot less effectively.
One by one. You sure, yeah? Well, kill my wife! Who else was there? I don't know anything else. You're not gonna kill me. Jerkers.
In this movie, it's refreshing because he might be playing the role of the guy who's out to get revenge and do all this damage to a bunch of bad guys, but he really doesn't know what he's doing at the beginning. He's really kind of like, almost like fumbling through the activity at first. And but then he, it shows him how he tries to like get himself to a level where he can actually do this effectively, and so I think they do a good job of legitimizing or the believability of him being able to do this. All right, so that's for one. Secondly, I think that this is very appropriate. We have sirens going on in the background.
I might need to go real quick.
But
They're not here for you.
yeah, I mean, the movie actually it's got Vincent D'Onofrio in it. It's nice to see him
guy.
outside of the Kingpin role. And he's a scary dude and everything, but he plays a kind of a good guy in this one. But the bad guys are very well done. And I gotta say, like, the movie is not overly gratuitous. I mean, there's one scene that's really kind of, you might not want to watch it. It's a scene in a mechanic scene, basically, and that one was a little tough to watch. But
The one that's in the trailer?
Yes, but
Due to
the end
violence?
result of that scene, you don't want,
Oh, like,
it kind of like, you're kind of like, oh, that was kind of nasty. But, this is an Eli Roth film, and it's a Death Wish film, and you're expecting it to be way over the top. And it really isn't, I mean, I can name like a half a dozen regular action movies that are way more violent than this movie.
Pretty much any,
Um,
like Michael Bay or Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah, I mean, I know that there's a lot of critics out there, they're like panning the film, they're like, oh, this is like, pro-gun, NRA movie, all this other stuff. I'm hearing a lot of like people politicizing it, but, to me this is just entertainment. We're just telling stories, and I don't see why we have to over-politicize everything all the time. I think just take it for what it is, but it was a well-done film, so I definitely recommend it. We want to talk solo trailer?
I haven't seen that one yet.
No?
That movie.
For real?
Yeah, the whole like solo trailer movie.
Yeah.
I haven't seen
No?
that.
So during the Super Bowl, there was like a little snippet,
That's
and then
why.
the next day they released the full trailer.
Yeah.
And I have to say, have you seen it?
No, I saw the one in the Super Bowl and I was very, very disappointed.
Really? I was the opposite because I've thought this movie, everything surrounding the making of this movie is trash. Like from losing the directors and bringing a director on, and then you hear all the fact that the cast was very unhappy with the way the script was being developed, and it was starting to be a comedy and almost a slapstick thing about them. Nothing was taken serious, and their fear was that the average Star Wars fan was going to hate this film. So Kathleen Kennedy came in, tried to work with the directors and let them go, and brought in help me out. Who's you guys don't know?
No idea.
You don't know who the director is? Oh,
No.
sorry. It's
It's,
I don't
the
even
guy
know
from
who wrote Star
Apollo,
Wars.
directed Apollo 13.
Oh.
He was Opie in
Ron Howard.
Ron Howard,
Yeah.
thank you. Yes,
Oh, Ron
Ron
Howard.
Howard.
Opie.
Ron Howard, Opie, yeah. Ron Howard, who's done a lot of great films, not just the one I mentioned, but so they brought him in, and he released little snippets of photos from the set. But anyway, I felt that the trailer.
Wait,
I was
Ron
like,
Howard's directing Han Solo?
yeah.
I did not know that.
So the question will be
Neither
though,
did I.
who gets the actual credit? Because it'll depend on how much footage was used from the previous directors.
My fear is that so far, like I haven't seen that trailer, but I really haven't seen any trailers for Solo. Like on TV, there have been a lot of spots, and the only reason I think of is that they haven't quite finished the movie, and that they really don't know what the finished product is still going to be. And
That's a legitimate fear.
yeah, and
Absolutely.
that's weird.
Yeah.
2 months
So
away.
usually
Yeah.
what happens is I think a lot of people were expecting we were going to get a Han Solo trailer with the release of The Last Jedi.
Mhm.
And it still didn't come, and we were only a couple months away, and we had nothing. Matter of fact, I don't believe we even had posters yet for the movie, okay?
Nope.
So let's talk about just briefly, you had the directors get fired, new director gets brought in, then you hear about a complete rewrite of the script. Now, we get the trailers, right? We get posters, then we get a trailer, and now, I don't know if you've heard this, but Disney is being sued because the posters are almost identical in theme from album covers by this one artist. He did like a series of album covers for like I think it was over in France, but it was like Time Life collection of music. So it could be jazz, could be R&B. So, and when you look at it, it's the same type of artwork using exactly the same color palettes from every single poster.
Wow.
So
All right.
the artist came up and said, "Hey, I
Yeah.
want to get paid
Yeah.
because that's my artwork." So it just seems like every single step with this film, I totally think you're on point with being concerned, because there's been nothing positive coming around this, except for me. I felt like, you know what? I kind of like what I saw in the trailer. So
I did too.
I went from being like, I don't know that I even want to go see it opening day, which I usually pre-purchase my tickets, to now I'm eager to see it. So I thought the trailer looked okay.
This is interesting. We get quite a balance here because I'm kind of with Ken
Yeah.
on the real skepticism about whether this is going to be a quality movie. You guys are excited about it, and Tyler hasn't seen it.
Well, I'm both.
Wait a minute.
Just so you know, I'm both. I'm skeptical
Yeah.
because of everything I just said.
I want to be
Yeah.
But
optimistic. I want it to be a good movie.
Yeah.
I want it to be a
Oh,
good
sure,
movie.
yeah.
I am just worried,
Yeah.
like it's going to be Crystal Skulls,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which like it looked good in the trailers, right?
Well, it's
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
supposed to be like the next greatest indie movie. And then it turned into the worst indie
And it was being the fourth best indie
And then
movie.
it's- yeah, Lucas.
Well, I mean, there were games
Lucas
too,
blowing
so
it for the
probably
Indiana
what those
Jones
behind the
series.
scenes,
Okay.
as well. And I think
Yeah.
there was a comic series also introduced, so that'll
Yeah,
probably
TV
fall behind.
series, the Young Indiana Jones.
Yeah,
so
it's
he
just-
just
Yeah.
keep kicking it down.
Well, I don't think anybody wants to see it fail. At least unless you're a Star Trek fan, Trekkie.
I don't
doesn't
think
like Star
think
Wars.
it's mutually exclusive.
No. Unless you're a Trekkie that doesn't like Star Wars.
Okay.
But
I fancy myself a Trekkie. Thank you.
I do too. I love Star
Yeah,
Trek.
yeah.
But nonetheless, I agree with you because
Is that a
I
Mork
share
and
the
Mindy
same
reference?
feelings you do. I want to see it succeed. The only question I keep coming back to is, who really wanted to see a Han Solo film?
Well, I
like,
think-
the fans were never clamoring for a Han Solo film.
I think this was a problem when Disney got him took him over, right?
I wanted to see a Han Solo film.
I did too, but
Really?
it felt like they put themselves on a schedule where they said, "Hey, we're going to release the main stories every other year, and then in between we're going to have tie-in movies that'll stand alone."
Yeah.
That's a very aggressive production schedule,
Yes, yeah.
and you're not giving yourself very much wiggle room for stuff like delays.
But how's that any different than the Marvel? What they're doing with Marvel? Marvel Comics, and they're tying these stories together.
Marvel has a lot of story already written in that they can
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
go off of, whereas
They
the
can
Star Wars
utilize
stuff, like
it.
they're paving new territory. You know?
But they have,
Yeah.
you know what they're using? A lot of legacy work that is no longer
Yeah.
canon, and they're
They're
drawing
making it
through.
canon now,
Yeah.
which that's why people wanted a solo movie, is that they want that storyline to be canon. So
What I'm hearing
they're gonna
is
give it to
a
them.
lot of people want a Obi-Wan Kenobi film and they want a Yoda film.
Yeah.
So to me, I think that's certainly more intriguing than a Han Solo film. But okay, you know what? I'm going to take everything you guys pitch my way. It's really just a question of will Wayne go see it on opening night or will he wait till the day after? That's really where I'm
He's
at.
going to see it opening night.
See.
My concern is
You
will
will
it
absolutely see
will it match? Will I love it as much as I loved Rogue One?
No, that thing's gonna be a completely different movie.
Yeah.
That's the
You
that's
can't
the
make a
thing is
comparison
that
like that.
No.
This feels like it's gonna be more like a
Because-
lighthearted, kind of like a fun film. I could see this being like a Guardians-esque kind of film.
yeah.
Yeah, I
But-
think that's a very good comparison.
I don't want to see him come out looking like a hero because in episode 4 he didn't start out that way.
He's a scoundrel.
He's a
He's a
scoundrel.
scoundrel.
So
And he should be a scoundrel in this movie.
I would like to see this
Yep.
movie start as, yeah, we're supposed to see how he became a pilot and everything like that, but I want to see it. I want to be able to see it end as him being that scoundrel where we first met him.
My fingers are crossed that it's not a complete comedy show through the whole thing.
Yes.
You know, and I think that was the cast's fear and Kathleen Kennedy's fear. And so that's why they've pretty much, I mean, I don't know anything. I don't know anything to do with the film or at Disney, but what I've read is that it was almost a complete rewrite in the tone of the film.
Yeah.
So when this is the second time you've mentioned that name, and I'm not familiar with it. Who's Kathleen Kennedy?
Kathleen Kennedy took over for George Lucas. George Lucas had been, I don't want to say grooming her, but they collaborated a lot when it was just Lucasfilm. And then when he sold Lucasfilm and THX and everything, right, all of it, all went to Disney. She was
Industrial
named...
Light Media.
Yep,
Yeah.
Light Magic, right?
Justin
Yeah,
Bieber.
something like that.
So, but ILM anyway, right? So all of that went to Disney, and then she was named head of Lucasfilm and division, I guess, of that. So
Okay.
she's the woman, and I think she's done an awesome job to this point. And I hope she just, I like where she's going. I like how she operates and how she's very aggressive, like you said, with these movies and everything. But I think they're very compartmentalized. So, hey, I'll take a Star Wars movie every single year as long as you
As long as the
still...
quality's good.
Exactly. The bar, don't lower the bar.
I mean, Last Jedi. You were, I kind of.
I don't want to get
we're-
pulled into that
I
discussion.
feel like we're starting to see.
Don't
Okay.
wanna-
Yeah.
I don't want to get pulled into
The threads are
that.
fraying.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, so let's move on to TV.
TV.
Now.
Do you want to stay with Star Wars?
Sure, we can do that.
All right.
Oh, so we're gonna talk about Star Wars last.
Oh, okay. You want to start? I don't care. Go wherever you want.
No,
You want
let's
to talk
keep
about
going.
Voltron?
You guys want to arm wrestle for it?
No.
Okay.
I'm weaker than I look.
Yeah. All right. We'll talk about Star Wars Rebels, and I'll try to keep this one short. It's hard. So Star Wars Rebels has concluded. Okay, so that was, I think, 4 or 5 seasons, 4 seasons, I believe. Star Wars Rebels. Star Wars Rebels kept on after the Clone Wars TV series, and there were 6 seasons of that. Truly, only 5, and then the 6th season was all the episodes that they had completed, but they hadn't actually released. And the issue was that they never brought closure to that whole thing. They still had episodes that are partially done, fully recorded voice recording, but they hadn't done the animation work. So there was no true closure to all of that. That all came to a screeching halt because Disney had bought Lucasfilm and they said, pretty much, we're done with this, let's start something new. So they came up with Rebels. First season was okay. You're getting to learn new characters. The artwork is slightly more geared toward kids than, say, the Clone Wars was. And I want to say that I felt like it was a little bit more campy. Little bit. Here we are now, 4th and final season. 4th and final season, in my opinion, is the best season. There was really no fluff episodes, and if you feel that there's a fluff episode, just wait, because it probably will come back around in another episode. The final 2 episodes were called A Fool's Hope and Family Reunion and Farewell. So basically you have the the Ghost is the main ship that they're on, and you have all the what's the word of the crew of the Ghost is Ezra Bridger, who's force sensitive and becoming a Padawan of Kanan Jarrus. Kanan Jarrus is a Jedi Knight now. When you first meet him in the show, he doesn't proclaim himself to be a Jedi Knight, and because of the comic series, now we have some history.
Oh, this is Keenan the Last Padawan.
Yes, yes. And what we find out is that's not even really his real name. So you're gonna have to read the story, read the series, because the series was not bad.
Yeah, it was good.
And then
Seriously.
Star Wars Rebels. All I can say is bear with the first season because writers and animators and actors really need to come into the characters. But I'm telling you, by the fourth season, a lot happens. I'm going to tell you. You see Obi-Wan Kenobi in this series. You see Darth Maul in this series. You see Emperor Palpatine. You see Sidious in this. You see Darth Vader in this. You see a bunch of new characters.
This is all canon?
All canon. All canon. Mm-hmm. So, and Ahsoka Tano, who is a character from the Clone Wars. Mm-hmm. You see Captain Rex, Wolf, and Gregor, who are all clone troopers. They come into this series. It was a great way and a great opportunity for Dave Filoni, who's the major creator for Clone Wars, now of Rebels, and now he's been named the head of animation for Lucasfilm. So now they're kind of grooming him, and there's rumor that they want him to actually do a movie. We'll see where that goes. So anyway, getting back to final two, you want to say something?
Well, I just wanted to say, in case you didn't know, Clone Wars was on Cartoon Network.
Yes.
For Lucasfilms before Disney bought them.
That's right.
That's why it went to a dead halt. And
Yep.
now that those characters are coming into Rebels, it feels like they're saying, okay, that series is going to be canon.
It was always canon.
It was canon?
It was always canon, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so...
That's what I wanted to ask.
Yeah, no, they had said early on that everything done on the TV series is now canon.
Okay, cool.
So that was canon. And I think there was only one comic series... no, I won't even make that statement, because the comic series after... When Disney bought it, they said, okay, all comics prior to, with one exception, which was the Darth Maul series.
Anything prior than 2015.
Something like that.
All
They said all that's
All the Dark Horse stuff.
all legacy, not
Yeah.
canon. Everything Marvel from that point forward, canon. And so what we've got with this group of ragtag rebels is now we're starting to see the formation, just like you did in Rogue One. So they were just one faction of rebels rebelling against the Empire. And it's the story that brings how they become a ragtag group of individuals coming together to form this rebel alliance. So you get to see that happen over these seasons. And these last two episodes were just fantastic because we learned more about the Force. I don't know, should I say spoilers? Are we doing spoilers?
Yeah, we're spoilers.
If you don't know it,
Absolutely.
and you're going to watch it, stop here. Kanan Jarrus dies, so we actually had we actually have, yeah, man, he dies, and he dies in a very heroic way.
I was not ready for that spoiler.
Yeah, man, I'll tell you. And then Ezra Bridger, who is the young Padawan, maybe died. We don't really know. So, there's, we find out canon that Commander Rex, it was always a joke that Commander Rex made it into, not Empire Strikes Back, the last, not
Force Awakens.
The Last
Return of the Jedi.
Return of the Jedi. Sorry.
He was in it. He was the white, old guy with the white beard. Canon. In the last episode, they say Rex fought in the Battle of Endor. So at the end of this series, we just jumped from before A New Hope to after Return of the Jedi. And we find out a couple characters lived till after Return of the Jedi.
Cool.
And it's like,
Still
holy
part of
cow,
the rebellion.
totally shocker, right?
Very cool.
And then one person's voice for this whole 4 seasons, everybody wanted to know who does the voice of Chopper, kind of like R2-D2. Chopper's a droid unit that's been in practically every single episode. So the question was, who always does his voice? He does the moaning and groaning and stuff. And it turned out, in the last episode, they credited Dave Filoni, who is the one of the creators, and now, like I said, he's the head of Lucasfilm. Excellent series, excellent story. We see there's some surprise endings, there's some surprise twists in it. You get a lot of references to the Clone Wars. And they do it in such a way that if you don't know the reference, it's okay. We just keep moving on. You're going to accept what we're telling you. Mm. But for those of us who have been following the Clone Wars, you're like, that's cool because I know who those people are. I know what this is about, so I know some backstory, but you don't really need to know. Mm. So anyway, the show was over. The series is over. It was sad. It was a little bit of emotional. Like, I didn't have a tear, but you sit there and you're like, wow, right? To see a character die, like you see him die, that was really, you're tugging on your heartstrings a little bit.
On a Disney Channel?
No, so now here's something that's interesting, right? Yes, it's on Disney XD.
Yeah.
So if you have a cable network and you have video on demand, that's usually free, that you can go back and watch. So now where do you go? Rebels is done. No more Clone Wars. So we have no Star Wars on television really right now. Dave Filoni said, watch for an announcement coming very soon. Rumor has it, Disney is doing their own streaming channel.
Yeah.
And that there will be possibly a live action Star Wars series, which has been rumored for a long time, and initially was rumored that Netflix might get it, because Netflix has the Clone Wars series right now, and they have a Rogue One. But now that's said to be all going to go on their own streaming service, which makes a lot of sense. Because for me, I'll cancel my HBO and I'll just go and get the Disney stuff and watch all my Star Wars that way. Since he's the head of animation, probably another series coming. Where? We don't know.
So the good news is for you Star Wars animated fans, it's not the end of the effing world.
Oh,
see what I did there?
Amazing transition. Even though it has absolutely nothing to do with Star Wars whatsoever.
Then we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go. A series that came out on Netflix very recently, based on a comic book series that was, actually I think it was a one-shot book.
Yeah, graphic novel.
Graphic novel written right here in Massachusetts. However, the Netflix series takes place in Wales. It's Britain. In Britain somewhere. I don't know exactly where. I don't know Britain all that well. But it essentially follows 2 very messed up teenagers that are coming to terms with a very chaotic life, both in their own separate ways, that come together through some very unlikely means and end up going on a trip across Britain to, in some ways, find themselves and in other ways find a place that they belong. And it's like every single episode after the next it's a slow boil with every episode getting more and more effed up until it comes to a conclusion that just leaves you completely awestruck. And it's really on a deep kind of cliffhanger where it's like you're not sure exactly what happened. Like you kind of know, but you don't want to believe it. But it's 2 very just disturbed young kids. A young boy who has a complete lack of any sort of emotional connection with anyone due to watching his, spoiler alert, mother commit suicide when he was only I think 9 years old was the age that she literally drove her car right into a duck pond where he was feeding ducks and he watched her die. And because of that, has a complete disconnect from the rest of the world and determines that he's probably a serial killer, that he could easily do that, and he wants to find somebody to kill to see what it's going to be like. And then pops in this young lady who has her own family issues that she's dealing with, father who walked out on her 10 years ago, and now her mother's dating this sleazeball of a guy, and or married to this sleazeball of a guy, and she gets absolutely no love from her mother, love or attention from her, and gets the wrong type of love and affection from her stepdad, and so she meets this kid. She has no idea what goes on in his head. He has no idea what's going on in hers, but they somehow stick it out together in the single most awkward way possible. Very just like, the first episode is just chock full of scenes of them like sitting like on the roof, sitting on the couch, on a swing, and they don't even look at each other. They just look off into space. Half of the dialogue is just, them, going over these events, in their minds, like telling you about it as over narrative, and it's surprisingly well done. It captures you from the very first episode. I think there's 8 in total, and me and a friend, we were here one late night after the shop had closed. I was doing some cleanup. We decided to pop Netflix up on the TV. And the first thing that popped up was, the title for this, and we decided, let's sit down and watch it. And we ended up binging the entire series right there and then, 8 full episodes, and we wanted to know more so badly that within like a week, he'd already found a copy of the graphic novel.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Because you got nothing done that night.
I didn't do anything that night. We just watched it straight through, but it's definitely binge worthy. That's for sure. It's something that you can get through in a night.
Dripping with unsavoriness.
Yes, it's definitely not something that you want to watch with your kids or your parents. There is quite a deal of violence. I don't even know if I can really call it climaxes. There's a point where the plot kind of shifts and is geared towards like the major overarching plot point, and just an entire like 2-episode arc that leads up to this climax that changes the whole direction of the story, and it is absolutely gruesome. Definitely not. If you're not good with blood, I would not suggest watching those scenes through. But it just pinnacleizes on how messed up these 2 teenagers really are, and the conclusion is absolutely jaw-dropping. So if you have an opportunity to sit down and watch it, and if you can stomach it, definitely a lot of funny scenes, a lot of kind of heartwarming in a really twisted way, and then just all around psychologically disturbing TV series.
I think I'm going to recommend this one to my wife.
Oh, she'll love it.
Melissa's gonna love that.
Right out of the gate with the title.
You gotta make sure that she knows that it's
End of
Tyler's
the
recommendation
Effing
too.
World.
Absolutely.
Put in some context.
Absolutely. If you're listening, hon, he's got the hookup for us right
Absolutely.
here. That's what we're binging this week. Just kidding. Anyway. So I think we have one final discussion point for tonight. For TV, yeah. It's, we're not just limited to movies and television, but tonight we are. So I think we're going to talk Voltron. Whose suggestion was this?
It was mine. It was mine. Have you watched it?
No.
Oh.
I watched a couple of episodes.
Oh, man. So, you've watched a couple episodes?
Oh, yeah.
Did you like it?
Yeah.
Did you watch the original series way back in the 80s?
That was like,
No.
Boomerang.
So,
Catch it on
yeah,
Boomerang.
Boomerang.
Yeah.
All right. So, for those of you
Same
who don't
here,
know, Voltron from the 80s series was very corny in nature, but that it was fine for its day. So, Netflix last year decided to kind of reimagine Voltron and redo its origins and tell us just tell us who Voltron is and bring it to the present, right?
Yeah.
I was completely caught off guard as to the fact that they really geared this to people in their 30s, 40s, 20s, 30s, 40s. It is not a preteen show. Although preteens could watch it, but you're not going to get that corny little feel and everything. The writing is really geared toward a more mature audience that's going to appreciate, this type of thing.
Mhm.
I honestly, so are you getting, and here's the other thing, at the time I think Voltron was also on when the Power Rangers were on. You're like, holy
Right.
cow, this is almost like the exact same thing, right? But this is not. There's not a lot of Voltron versus a big monster type thing. And I have to say that the storylines are more complex. Now you're in season 5. The first season, I forget, was over 10 episodes, and the second season was over 10 episodes, but they broke it into like season 2 and 2.5, so they broke up the season. We're on season 5 now, but this, I think this one may only be like 6 or 7 episodes. So, but the stories, you're using the same characters, but the way they're using them and how they're telling the story is a much better and enjoyable story. And we're not getting animation where it's just completely drawn like we did in the 80s. There's a lot of CGI. It's almost all CGI. It's great. It's really enjoyable. So if you're not watching it, season 5 Voltron is now on Netflix, and believe me, you can binge watch that easily in an afternoon. It's an excellent series. Start with season 1 if you can. If not, you'll just enjoy it.
All right. Awesome. Well, with that closes our pop culture video for the month. But we'll be back again next month, and hopefully with a little bit of a different look. So we'll see. But thanks for tuning in. Really appreciate it. And we'll see you again soon.